Forever after that, the workers in that workplace are going to be empowered, and they're going to feel, they're going to know that they have power because we stand together as Teamsters.
Yeah, that relationship's changed forever for the better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we did actions like this, literally hundreds of them around the state on whatever issue. And, over time, the size of our actions would get bigger. We, went from 1 to 5 or 10 to we could get 50 or 100 out to a rally. And then by the time we got to our contract campaign.
So it wasn't all staff anymore?
Correct.
I know.
Correct.
It's funny. That's the work, though, that it takes to get things started, too.
That's the work of building the union, because that's what the union is.
I thought you just had some smart magic bullet, but you're just out working everybody.
Right. Well, we're out working and we're out talking about, it's very, very simple. The union is all of us standing together, taking action, because they can't run this place without us. And we just, and that's the starting point for everything that we do. And then when it gets to the contract, we sat down a couple years before our contract was up. We put together research. What we found was that workers in our bargaining unit were not being paid enough to live in California. We did a study with Economic Policy Institute showing that a very large percentage of workers at UC are underpaid compared to what it costs to live. And we also built a movement of our members taking action and starting small and then building big and then culminating in strikes. And we did statewide strikes. And then while we were in the middle of the contract, we organized skilled trades at UCLA and UC San Diego.
So you've had flat out walkouts.
Oh yeah. No, we took, we did a series of strikes.
As you know, like where I come from, typically you're doing renewal agreements, and there's a lot of talk of striking, but it's hard, and God forbid you have to get to that point. But once you're there, that's a whole nother dynamic,
Right. Well, and we tell our members, look, we're not looking to strike just for the fun of it. And
in other words, I'm saying it's a tool seldom used, but effective, and
Well, but what I tell my members is that if the employer knows going into bargaining that we're not ready to take action, we're going to get what they give us. Okay.
Well,
but if they know,
means you're not fucking around either.
Right. But if they know going in that we're ready to do whatever it takes up to and including a strike, then they're going to take us seriously. And hopefully then we won't have to strike.
So they must be taking you seriously at this point.
But that was part of the deal, because
11 years
we were
later.
the new kids. We were the new kids. And so, we had to
bloody a nose or two to kind of get attention.
Right. You hate to use that analogy, but it's kind of, you're the new kid in the schoolyard, right? In this case, they had to see, and we went into it hoping we wouldn't have to strike.
Right.
But it turned out that they were not being fair with us. And
they're going to test you too when you're new.
Exactly. And I think I think we had to prove it not just to the employer, but to ourselves, that we were able to do this, because I think that, we didn't know because we hadn't done it. Now we know that we can run an effective strike if we need to. And we're going into bargaining now. We're gearing up because that contract was a 5-year deal. It's up next year.
Now, is it all – so are they public employees? So is it PERB stuff, or is it –
These are all public. Yeah, University of California is a public employer. And so is California State University. Those are our big employers. And since when we started, we were one bargaining unit, one contract. Now we picked up statewide contract of 1,100 CSU skilled trades, 22 campuses, one bargaining unit, 6 campuses of skilled trades, each with their own contract at UC. So we have between those two, 7 contracts. Right now we have open, and we're in bargaining at Davis, because that's the new group, Santa Barbara and Irvine, because those were the 2 contract, the Santa Barbara and Irvine, and actually CSU. We were in bargaining when COVID hit.
Oh, yeah.
And
a lot of that.
Yeah. So that was a rough deal, because we were actually, like at CSU, we had this big fight to reinstate the step increases, which had been taken away 20 years ago. We had legislation. We had a whole campaign around it. We had given them our proposal. They were about to give us their proposal on steps, and then COVID hit. And of course, you couldn't bargain at that time because there was no money. It was a disaster. So we took an extension with reopeners, and all the unions at CSU, including us, took an extension.
Reopeners.
Right. Well, we were the only ones that got a reopener. In hindsight, we may turn out to be pretty clever because our reopener was based on if the budget improves, if the state budget improves.
Geez, the state budget's improved.
Right. So I don't know.
By the way, I don't know who, and maybe my perception's wrong. I just heard it was a couple of weeks ago that there's a huge budget surplus in the state.
Right. Yeah. So back when we were at the,
so you could have got locked into something.
We could have got locked into something where we were in rough shape, but instead we were smart enough to bargain a reopener if the budget improves past where the pre-COVID budget, that we would get a reopener on wages. So the new budget ought to trigger that, and so
right. They're just talking about just giving money back to people.
Right. Well, hopefully they give it to the workers who have been on the front lines. Our skilled trades members at CSU have been working, for the most part, in the workplace straight through this whole thing. While their supervisors, I think I was telling you before we started talking, their supervisors were at home on Zoom. They were in the workplace working throughout this whole thing, and without a raise because of COVID. So now it's time for the employer, when now we're awash in money.
And that's another thing that kind of gets lost too, is hazard pay. It is a important subject, and for a lot of people that were under contract, they were just compelled. There was no hazard pay. It's just go to work.
Well, for us, we were very proud of the work we did during COVID, our whole union. But Local 2010, not to pat ourselves on the back, but we jumped in.
No, pat yourself on the back.
Okay,
please.
I'll pat. Okay, yeah. If you insist. So no, we jumped in and we fought like hell through this whole thing, because when this COVID first hit, these employers never miss a crisis as an opportunity to screw workers, right? So they wanted to do layoffs. They wanted to cancel our contractual raises, all this stuff. And we jumped in and we pushed back. We basically kept everyone on payroll through the whole thing. A lot of people, we got thousands of our members the right to work from home safely because they could do it, depending on the type of work. We had a lot of big wins. And one of them, because you brought up hazard pay at CSU, we had a good provision in the contract. How dare
you? You took advantage of somebody. I could see you laughing.
Well, no, we didn't take advantage of anything. We fought for our members' rights based on some pretty good contract language that we had, which provided for emergency pay.
Okay.
But it was double time.
Oh,
it was emergency. And so if anyone was working on site,
I would smirk too.
We got our members double time if they were working on site during the pandemic when everyone else was home.
And by the way, they deserve that.
Absolutely. Our members deserve everything that we can get them and more.
And more.
And so, if we were fortunate we won that language. Right. That language was in there from the fires.
You made your own luck.
Right. Well, when the fires hit, we bargained that in there because they would shut down a campus, but then they call in our members to work,
of course,
in the middle of the smoke and everything else. So we bargained emergency pay, and it was double time. So when this COVID hit and they shut down all the campuses, students are home, administrators are home, everybody's home except our members get called into work. And so we said, that's emergency pay. And they said, no, it's not because of this technicality. And we said, yeah, so we filed a grievance and we ended up getting it. So we got emergency pay, and what ended up happening in practice was then they sent people home when they could, paid them straight time. But when people came in, during the pandemic, they got paid double time, and a lot of members got paid that. So then once they opened things up, the emergency pay went away, but we were able to also win extended paid family leave and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Are they doing anything with the vaccine as far as requirements?
Well, yes, you're vaccinated because we're within 6 feet of each other.
Absolutely. And I think I am all for, and the reason I say this is it might be unpopular, but I'm all for mandatory requirements for vaccination. I'm not saying you should fire people if they don't get vaccinated, but if you want to work, get vaccinated,
Well, as a union, I know I may have my own opinions about it, but my job is to represent the members.
Absolutely.
And
but so, what are they doing in the UC?
Well, let me tell you. So it's a little bit of a story because
I'm probably going to yank my part out.
You don't want to get hate mail.
Yeah, totally.
Right. That's a good idea. I say leave it in. Be tough.
Okay.
So we've got we've got members that have all different opinions about this.
Right.
And before there was a COVID vaccine last fall, University of California made the seasonal flu vaccine mandatory for the first time ever. And, in previous years, it was only mandatory at their hospitals, and you could get a personal exemption and wear a mask if you didn't want to get vaccinated. So without bargaining with us,
I didn't even think that UC, of course, UC is, there's a whole medical industry in California that is part of the UC system.
Yeah, we have 5 UC hospitals. About a third of our members work at UC hospitals.
I was thinking colleges, and I forgot just how much UC. How much? Anyway, so
our members kept those hospitals running throughout this pandemic. Okay.
Oh my God, I never even thought of that.
Yeah. So, but what they did was they made seasonal flu mandatory, or the vaccine mandatory for everybody. And we sat and bargained the effects, and they, we won some things in terms of paid time off to get the vaccine, and a medical exemption and a religious exemption. But we wanted a personal exemption so that our members that didn't want to get the vaccine could wear a mask instead. And our position was, that workers should have the right to control their medical decisions, not the employer. And a lot of our members feel very, very strongly about this.
Well, the people that have an opinion on it have a strong one.
Right. And then, of course, we have other members that say, why are we taking this up? Everyone should get vaccinated. Science,
Right.
So we fought for everybody, and we won a bunch of stuff, but we didn't win the personal exemption. So we actually filed a lawsuit. And it's kind of funny that our lawsuit was filed in the same court where the lawsuit filed by Robert Kennedy's anti-vaxxer group was filed. Oh. And, the judge basically threw out our argument that said that it was unconstitutional to force people to get vaccines. So, and that decision was pretty,
that's cut and dried then, yeah.
So, the decision was pretty clear. We won a bunch of stuff for our members. We didn't get that personal exemption. Okay, so fast forward to now there's a COVID vaccine. And the UC and the CSU actually got together and put out a joint statement. We're making COVID vaccine mandatory for anyone who comes on campus. Staff, students, faculty, anybody. So, and no exemptions but they put all the protections we had bargained in the last thing they put in there. So we're bargaining the effects, but we have been going to our members and saying, this is what the rule's going to be.
Well, you're kind of already over a barrel by that precedent on the
right. And we said, look, we fought the good fight. We got the result we got. We got some things and other stuff we didn't get. But now, look, there's also a difference between COVID and seasonal flu, right? COVID's the thing that killed, more than half, I don't know how many at this point, Americans, and shut down our country and destroyed our economy, right? So,
I think it's between 600,000 and 700,000.
Yeah, a lot of people. So, so it's a little bit different. And, so we have encouraged our members to get it, recognizing everyone's got the right to their opinion. And we've said, 150 million people have got this vaccine. It seems to be very, very safe, very effective. You protect your health, your coworkers, your family. And also many of our members have been volunteering to help administer the vaccination to the community. By
the way, you're vaccinated, right?
Oh, no. No.
I mean, I'm Pfizer.
Now that I've breathed on you for the last hour.
I always introduce myself to people. I'm Pfizer.
Yeah. No, I got it right over here at the Coliseum. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So anyways, we've encouraged our members to get it, but we've also said, look, if you're objecting to it, we'll work with you to help you get the exemption, recognizing that it may be difficult.
Again, another example of better to be union than not union, because if you're not union, you got no recourse.
No recourse, exactly. So,
not that I'm promoting anti-vaxxing, but again,
right.
At least so the example is, as a worker, you've got some leverage and you've got some recourse. Whereas if you weren't union, you got to do what they say.
Exactly. I mean, there's never been a more important time to be in a union than right now. And that's why we're organizing all over the place, because even though you can't, you couldn't for a year go and see workers to organize, and we had to do it on Zoom and everything else. But this crisis has laid bare the difference between working union and working non-union. Essential workers. Yeah. I mean, at the union places, people have protections. We fought for safety measures. We fought for extra pay. We fought for to stop layoffs. Look at the non-union workers. Look at the Amazon, the people working at Amazon. are dropping dead,
Yeah,
and they don't
fulfillment
give-
centers. They have a number each one of how many people died during COVID.
And they couldn't care less. They'll sweep you aside and get another one.
The robot will push you out of the way.
And hopefully, and as soon as they could figure out how to get a robot to do it, they'll do that. So workers more than ever want a union because